This meeting will be open, blah, 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 blah. This is the closed session meeting of the Agoura Hills City Council, Wednesday, June 26, 2024 at 5 p.m. For in-person attendance, council chamber doors will open to the public at 4:30. You know what? I think I'm reading the wrong thing. Here it is. Okay. Welcome to the Agoura Hills City Council closed session. Please silence all cell phones and other electronic devices. If you wish to speak or submit a written comment related to the closed session item on this agenda, please complete and submit a comment card to the city clerk prior to the public comment portion of the meeting. I'm now calling this meeting to order, and I'll defer to the city clerk for a roll call.
Good afternoon. Councilmember Anstead?
Here.
Councilmember Klein-Lopez?
Here.
Councilmember Wolf?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester?
Here.
Mayor Buckley-Weber?
Here.
Mayor Buckley-Weber, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. This section is reserved, we're on public comments. This section is reserved for persons wishing to speak on items listed on the agenda. If you wish to distribute something to the city council, please do not approach the council dais. Hand your item to our city clerk and she will distribute to us on your behalf. Public testimony is limited to 3 minutes per speaker, and a speaker's time may not be transferred to another speaker. Persons addressing the city council shall not engage in disorderly conduct that disrupts or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of the meeting. I will now defer to the city clerk.
Thank you. No written public comments or speaker cards have been submitted.
Thank you. We will now recess into closed session. Good evening, everybody. It's so nice to see a crowd tonight. Okay, so welcome to the Agoura Hills City Council meeting. Please silence all cell phones and other electronic devices. If you wish to speak or submit a written comment, please complete a comment card for each item and submit to the city clerk prior to the public comment portion of the item. I am now calling to order the regular meeting of the Agoura Hills City Council, Wednesday, June 26, 2024, 6 p.m. Thank you. I'm first going to do our land acknowledgement. The City of Agoura Hills acknowledges that we occupy land originally and still inhabited and cared for by the Chumash Nation. Descendants of Chumash still remain, and we honor and pay our respects to their elders and various groups that make up the past, present, and emerging as they continue their stewardship of our lands and waters. We have a responsibility and commitment to elevate the stories, culture, and community of the original inhabitants of the city of Agoura Hills, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to live and work on these ancestral lands. I am now going to defer to Councilmember Wolf to lead us in the flag salute.
Wow, what an honor. So if everyone would please stand and place your right hand over your heart. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And you may be seated.
Thank you very much. We are now going to, I'm going to defer to the city clerk for a roll call.
Good evening. Councilmember Anstead?
Here.
Councilmember Klein Lopez?
Present.
Councilmember Wolf?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester?
Here.
Mayor Buckley Weber?
Here.
Mayor Buckley Weber, you have a quorum.
Thank you so much. Report of closed section. I'm going to defer to our city attorney, Candace Lee.
Thank you, Mayor. Direction was given to staff. No reportable action taken this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. We are now moving on to the approval of the agenda. Let's see here. So we are going to be changing things on the agenda. We are going to have the Water District has requested their intergovernmental presentation be moved up as they will need to attend another meeting this evening. Following the YMCA Rotary Club presentation, we will defer to the Water District and then return to presentations for Business of the Month. Will the maker of the motion and the second to approve tonight's agenda as amended state your names?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended. This is Deborah Klein Lopez.
Councilmember Wolf, I'll second.
Thank you, and now I'll defer to the city clerk for a roll call vote.
Councilmember Anstead?
Aye.
Councilmember Klein Lopez?
Aye.
Councilmember Wolf?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester?
Aye.
Mayor Buckley Weber?
Aye.
Mayor Buckley Weber, you have approval 5-0.
Thank you so much. So our first presentation is from the Southeast Ventura County YMCA to Rotary Club of Westlake Village for the Agoura Hills Morrison Park Playground Renovation Project. Tonight, we are honored to have such a presentation of support for the Morrison Park Playground Renovation Project. Ryan and Lindsay Goldman set out 2 years ago to raise enough funds to pay for a new set of play equipment at Morrison Park, equipment that would be more innovative and accessible to everyone. At the time, Councilmember Klein Lopez and I served on the Community Services Subcommittee, and we told Ryan to come to our subcommittee meetings, which he did. And I say this as a point of interest for our residents. The council works from the community up. If you have something, bring it forward, just like Ryan did. So here we are tonight. Thank you, Ryan. The Goldmans quickly joined forces with the Rotary Club of Westlake Village to achieve the goal. While they continue to push towards their goal of $500,000, they recently had a local organization, big to Agoura Hills, step up and offer to become part of this great project. At this time, and I'm going to come over here, I'd like to invite Ryan and Lindsay Goldman, and Skylar, I believe you're here. Will you come up as well? Mike Dutra, representing both the YMCA and the Rotary Club of Westlake Village. Ronnie Stone, President and CEO of Southeast Ventura County YMCA, and YMCA Board Member Jason Amoroso to come up and join me. And I believe the YMCA is going to be making a presentation.
Good evening. Awesome. Good evening, Mayor Buckley Weber and City Council members. My name is Ronnie Stone, President, CEO for the Southeast Ventura County YMCA. We're here tonight to really, hopefully finish what has been a really long few years that the Goldman family, come all the way up here, has worked really hard to get done. And our goal tonight is hopefully we're the last bit to finish this project. But for us as a YMCA, our goal is always for all. And right now in our current setup in the parks we have around town, they're really not set up for all. So now the Goldmans, with their hard work, have set it up so that we are going to have a park that everyone can play at, including this guy right here, Skylar, who deserves a park that he and his friends can play at and do all the other things that all these other parks provide. So with that, I would like to present a check from the YMCA of $100,000 to the Rotary Foundation in turn, which will be for the Morrison Park project. So thank you all. Let's promise all of us in here tonight that we're going to do everything we can to get this project finished as quickly as we can. And I know Amy gets many emails and voice messages from me constantly to say, are we moving? Are we moving? The goal is we want him to be playing with his friends as soon as we can. So thank you all for letting us have this tonight, this opportunity to share this. And Mike would like to speak, and I have one other board member here tonight that surprised us. So Mike O'Keefe, thank you for being here tonight. And Mike.
Sure.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mike Dutra, former resident of Agoura Hills for 20 years. And when Ryan and Lindsay brought this project to us, not only for the club, but for myself, being able to give back to a community that's been so gracious and loving for my family over 20 years, it was just a no-brainer to take this thing on. And I really have to commend Ryan and Lindsay for the grassroots efforts. I mean, it's been going to fundraisers at local food places and getting the 5 or 10%. It's we've had a lot of fun at poker nights. But we've also gotten grants and $500, $1,000 donations, and it's really chipped in. And now with the Y being so generous with this donation, we're so close, and we're really hoping to get this project over. So thank you.
Thank you. Ryan or Lindsay, would you like to say a quick couple of words?
Sure.
Thank you.
So 3 years ago, this was an idea. And it started with a council meeting visit. And it really from there. And I have a lot of people to thank. Mike Dutra, the Rotary Foundation, Ronnie Stone, the YMCA, a lot of residents that really put forth a lot of effort with fundraising. We've gotten 2 grants because of Jeremy Wolf's guidance. And we nickeled and dimed our way to an amount where we're now ready to purchase the equipment. So with this check today from the YMCA to the Rotary Foundation, we're now able to enter into a purchasing agreement where the clock starts now. We'll have equipment within 6 to 7 months. The playground will go under renovations, and hopefully by summer of 2025, we'll be able to play. And that's the ultimate goal, is to have somewhere in our city where it's 100% inclusive, where every family feels comfortable being there, where everyone is invited and you feel welcomed. And we didn't have that before. We'd have to travel elsewhere to get that park, to get that playground, to get that feeling, to get that vibe. And now we're going to have that here in our hometown. And it's somewhere where Lindsay and I grew up. We've been here for a long time. We have roots here. And we wanted to make a difference in our own community. And that's really where this started, was how can we better where we live? So as grassroots, this is as grassroots as it gets. And now with this check, the clock starts, and we're so happy that possibly 6 months from now, we're having a different conversation. The playground equipment's landed. And another 9 months from now, we have a different conversation. It's covered in chain link because we're now under construction. So today's the first day of many good days, and we're honored to be here. And thank you, Council. Thank you, Mayor. We're so honored and blessed.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Ryan and Lindsay. You've worked really hard for this, and all of the residents of the city of Agoura Hills and beyond are benefiting from this wonderful park. And yeah, this is a great collaboration and great grassroots level, and that's why I said in the beginning, we're so glad you came to us. It was really important that you did, and just to tell us what your vision was. So I'm glad it can work out. And I was going to say, what is that check? If you guys can all gather around for a picture. It's a $100,000 check for those of you who are watching TV from the YMCA, which is incredibly generous and beautiful. And Ryan, do you still need to raise more money? Do you want to plug how people could donate?
Mayor, you should get in that picture.
Okay, so there's one last plug. So the project is able to move forward. However, we still have a gap in our fundraising. There's approximately a need for about $50,000 to $60,000 more, which will get us to that ultimate goal of $480,000-ish. So MorrisonParkPlayground.com is our website. MorrisonParkPlayground.com/donate gets you to our donation page where we accept credit card donations, we accept checks. There are sponsorship opportunities. We're on the side of the restroom. There will be paw prints of all of our major donors where we want to give recognition and thanks. This is our donor legacy wall. So as long as this playground is in existence, the people that have made it happen will get their recognition on an everyday basis. MorrisonParkPlayground.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. We appreciate it. So now we are going to move on to the Water District's presentation under the Intergovernmental Special Purpose Committee and Departmental Reports. Water Supply and the Future of Water, Las Virgenes Municipal Water District. And I'm going to defer to the Las Virgenes Municipal Water District Public Affairs and Communications Manager, Mike McNutt. Come on up, everybody.
Mike says I go first. Is this on? So it's tough to talk. We don't have a check, so just full transparency. Have we ever asked for a check? So no, we joke around. First of all, Madam Mayor and distinguished council and new father. It's nice to be here. I'm Jay Lewitt, and I'm the president of the Las Virgenes Municipal Water District, and been president since 2018, and have served on the board since 2014. And I always make a commitment to come here and update you when things are going on, so you guys know, because hopefully you care, and also your constituents care, and they come to you as leaders, and they ask questions, and you're able to be knowledgeable. So as you know, Agoura Hills gets all of its water from Las Virgenes, except rainwater. If you guys know what rain, we had last 2 years, we had a lot of rain, but typically there's not a lot of rain here, but we don't really use the rain that we get in Agoura Hills. So all of our water, because I live in Agoura Hills as well, comes from Las Virgenes Municipal Water District. And all of Las Virgenes Municipal Water District water comes from the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. So we're a member agency. There's 26 member agencies, and it's 19 million people from Ventura all the way to the Mexican border and all of Southern California. And the biggest three are Los Angeles, Orange County, and San Diego. And last week, our board, we get to appoint one person to the Met board. I don't know what happened, but they unanimously voted, and they had my vote too, but unanimously appointed me to serve on the Met board. So I got sworn in last week. I'm now a Met board member, and so what that means to Las Virgenes and to all of you is I really go there wearing two hats. When I'm in those board meetings, I really wear the Met hat, because if everyone sat and just talked and thought about their districts, we would get nothing done, we'd fight a lot, and this is too important to not work together. So we show up there as Las Virgenes, but part of Southern California, trying to solve the Southern California water issues. And Met has water from the Colorado River, as well as the State Water Project, and they serve Southern California, like I mentioned. So my other hat that I wear is my Las Virgenes hat, and I have to represent this area, because I didn't represent this area, I wouldn't get represented. So this area is tough, as you know. That's a beautiful area. We all know we moved here because of the beautiful nature. We want to keep it that way at Las Virgenes. We look at ourselves as stewards of the environment, and our goal is to leave it how we found it, and we think we do a good job with that, with all of our pure water and our compost facility, and we're one of the most environmentally water districts maybe anywhere. I don't know what. Jeremy, when you get back to work, you can maybe research that. But but one thing we don't have is we don't have redundancy. I didn't even know what redundancy was when I got on the Las Virgenes board. But you want water coming from different sources in case one source isn't doing well. And all of our water comes from the State Water Project, which is north of Sacramento in Oroville, the base of the Sierra Nevadas. And those of you who have been on the metropolitan trip, we fly to Sacramento and we drive to the base. And there's rumors of a new trip coming up, so keep your calendars open. But that water comes down, which is great. But if that water, first of all, it's dependent on weather. It needs snow, because if it does, snowpack is 30% of that water. If it rains, then it rushes off and we can't capture it, ends up in the Pacific Ocean. But there could also be an earthquake and stop the water from coming here. And we have one source, literally today, we have one source of water. So Las Virgenes knew about that, and we have worked really hard to develop other sources. So that's why we have our pure water facility, which we think will be up to 30% of our portfolio. Debbie, I know you're a math person. Our pie chart had one piece of pie in it. Now with pure water, it'll be 2 pies, and that's still not enough. We are looking into very seriously at the ocean and ocean wells, and moving along on that project. But we think that the Pacific Ocean water could potentially be up to 20% of our portfolio. So that's 50%, which is great. But as of right now, we want more redundancy. We want to get the water from the Colorado River, which we don't have access to now. And Metropolitan's talking about an $8 billion pure water facility of their own, which would be great and we'll pay for, but we don't have conveyance from that. So we're working really hard on getting water from Met's pure water facility if they decide to build it, and also the Colorado River water. So what that does is the water flows now by gravity from the 5 and the 405 where Jensen plant is, and it flows down to LA. We essentially want to use those same pipes. We need pumps to pump it back the other way, so we'll have access to the Colorado River water. And so yesterday at the board meeting, I made a comment that phase 1, which is a small amount, will be maybe a perfect situation, be 4%, and Met's moving forward on that. And I'm pressing upon Met to move on phase 2, which will be 20% for us, roughly. These are rough numbers, but they could be 20% of our portfolio, which makes a really nice pie chart when you have those numbers. So we're working on that. Nothing's easy. You know, whiskey's for drinking and water's for fighting for. And it's the most precious resource on the globe, and everybody wants it, and we're small, and you know, we have, our voting share is less than 1% on the Met board. So I'm just going to go there and keep representing our district and keep representing Agoura Hills and have you in mind. I just wanted to give you an update of what I've been doing, but thanks so much for all of your time.
Congratulations, President Lewitt. It's
Thank
very
you.
exciting. Thank you for reporting on that.
Thank you.
We know you represent us well, so just keep up the good work.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And now my fellow director, Andy Kordeski, has a few words to say.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, President Lewitt, and thank you, Mayor Buckley Weber, and all of my favorite city council members. This is wonderful to see you all. My name is Andy Korodeski, and I am the director for District 2 of the Las Virgenes Municipal Water District. Between Jay and I, we basically share Agoura Hills. I have the east side of Agoura Hills and the west side of Calabasas. However, we represent everybody equally, so if you have any any ratepayers with any questions, please send them to us. We're happy to help out. And if there are any really hard questions, you can send them to Jay. So my goal today is to provide you with sort of a high-level overview of what's going on in water in California and how it affects Las Virgenes. And following that, our esteemed public affairs and communications manager, Mike McNutt, will explain what all that means. And I will tell you that the future does look bright for California and for water in California. As you may remember from a couple of years ago, during the depths of that particular drought cycle, essentially Las Virgenes has no water of its own. What little water we do have, there's surface water, which is Malibu Creek, and of course all that water needs to stay in the creek. We do have some groundwater, but it's generally of poor quality. The Santa Monica Mountains, although those are the reasons why we moved here, and I think many of you moved here. Santa Monica Mountains are essentially a lot of lava covered by a very little soil. And when the rain comes down, it leaches minerals out of those lava rocks, which is not potable. So it's not a great situation for us locally. Of course, what we have done, as Jay was talking about, we're now a member agency with Metropolitan Water District, and which is great because that's they have been really supportive of us, and they've gotten us all of the water that we've needed over for a very large number of years, with a slight hiccup of a couple of years ago. If you remember, during that drought cycle, we didn't have nearly as much water as we needed. And despite its huge size, Metropolitan does have a couple of challenges, and the one is that almost all of the water that it gets is dependent upon which way the wind blows. In the winter, if the wind blows the storms up north, then the snow and the water falls on the Sierra Nevadas up north and comes to us through the State Water Project. If the winds blow more southerly and easterly, the storms go out to Colorado, and the water, the snow and the ice and the water lands on the Colorado River watersheds. The trouble is, of course, the Metropolitan's Colorado River water pipes and their state water pipes don't connect. And so the 6 million, us in Las Virgenes and 6 million other people don't have access to Colorado River water. And of course, some little thing called global warming that's mixed into this whole thing as well. So a lot of challenges. However, we have some really smart people on our side. I am always impressed with the people at Las Virgenes and how committed and dedicated and how smart they are. And at the state level, DWR, the Department of Water Resources, at the federal level, the Bureau of Reclamation, they are really discussing some important issues and making some good decisions, and I think the future really does look bright for all of us. And so that's kind of a broad strokes background of where we stand here, and now the inimitable Mr. Michael McNutt will finish it up.
Good evening, Mayor Buckley Weber. It's nice to see you in esteemed City Council. It's a pleasure to be here, and I have not had the luxury or the honor of coming before you, and I've been waiting to say this for months, but I want to specifically say the most honorable Jeremy Wolf, my friend and my colleague. I'm very excited to be here. It's really great. And before I get started, I also want to give a quick shout out to the staff over here. I haven't had the honor to work with every single one of them, but Amy Brink and her staff, and Jessica and Ramiro, and you, of course, Nate, are just amazing. We have such a great relationship from the Water District with all the personnel here, and it's just a pleasure to be here and to give an update on water and to make sure that everybody knows how amazing they are, not that you don't already. So they're just great. So. Okay, so are you, Jessica, are you going to do the clicker thing, or can I do that for me? Or can I do that?
There's a man behind.
You, Ramiro, sorry, got you. I wasn't sure. You told me, okay, anyways. Okay, so let's just get started here. We're here basically just to give an update on everything we're talking about when it comes to all of our water stuff going on here in the district and region. So please. Quick overview. So there's a lot of things that we have going on, and this is some of the things I'm going to touch about when we have our conversation here today. And these are some of our big initiatives that we are currently involved in, will be involved in. And a lot of these are to ensure long-term water reliability for Agoura Hills and the region, and also resiliency to erratic weather patterns and climate change impacts. Next slide, please. So I took the liberty and just downloaded this new chart today. This hasn't changed for a couple of months now. Basically, what you're looking at here is we have a lot of water, and most of our reservoirs, if not all of them, are just brimming with water. These are at historic levels. The last 2 years, we've had an incredible amount of precipitation, but that could just also go away in the blink of an eye. Like we saw in what President Lewitt and Director Kordesky had already talked about a couple of years ago, this wasn't the case. But this is kind of the new normal now, where 1 year it might be great, the next 2 or 3 years it may not be. But right now, we're just slightly less than the average when it comes to our rain and snow. But like I said, all of our reservoirs throughout the state are in great shape. The State Water Project has given the district a 40% water allocation. We only need 30% to fulfill all of our needs, so we're in great shape. If we get 100%, we don't have any place to put it. So this is really, really good news for us as we move forward throughout this year, moving into next year as well. Next slide, please. So these are some of the things that we're contending with. It's not just us, it's all water agencies throughout the state. Obviously, I just mentioned climate change impacts and erratic weather patterns. One of the big problems that we all have is aging infrastructure, and we probably hear this quite a bit from any utility. Most of our pipes have been put in the ground, I don't know, back in the 50s to 60s, and maybe some of the 70s, and they have like a lifespan that some of them are starting to give out now. And so I'll talk to a little bit about what we're doing to be proactive to ensure that that doesn't happen often. And there's always these things that we probably see in the news, emerging constituents, what we call them, constituents of emerging concern, like microplastics and PFAS, things that we're really focused on to contend with, to ensure that our water is the cleanest and healthiest it can be. And of course, we have a limited resource. I'll talk a little bit more about these as we go. Next slide, please. So some of our departments, I'll kind of just go through some of the big achievements that we've had. Back in 2023 to now, in 2024, our customers have saved 30% of water usage compared to 2020. And the reason why we compare usage to 2020 is that what we did in the last drought. So those are the figures that the governor had suggested that we compare current usage to and in 2020. So collectively throughout our service area, 30% reduction in water use is phenomenal, and that's held. And what that tells us is that people have changed their behavior and their relationship with water. They think about it differently. It's not just something that comes out of your faucet. It's the most precious of resources that needs to be conserved at every possible angle. The other thing, with 30% constitutes nearly 6,000 acre-feet of water reduction in water use. That's fantastic. The Water Conservation Department, our Resource Conservation Department, has also kicked off a landscape transformation program. And you can see some of the things that we've been able to accomplish here under that umbrella of conserving water. We're really excited about the idea of really pushing, removing your lawn and replacing that with native or climate-appropriate landscaping. What that does for us is it creates habitat for our pollinators, and it also helps our yards become part of the local environment, which is something that is very, very important as we continue to move forward. A couple of other things. We have and will continue to offer native garden kits throughout like specific time periods. As you can see, this was like one time and we had 177 different families come and pick those up. And we're going to continue to offer smart irrigation controllers, Rachio, and potentially some others as we move forward as well. Next slide, please. Specifically, when it comes to the landscape transformation program, and I'm sorry that link is bad, or you can't really see it. Basically, what this is this program launched last year, and late last year, and moved into earlier this year, and it was so popular that we ran out of money.
And right now, we're working with a DWR grant that's about $630,000, but that's divided between other water agencies that are specifically state water project dependent. And what that's going to do is continue to fund that program. And we'll always be looking for additional funding sources to continue to fund that program. And we're also kind of, as we move forward, trying to create additional opportunities for residents throughout the region to partake in a program that could offer them a Rachio smart controller, a landscape design, potentially irrigation retrofitting, and also people coming out on hand with you as a homeowner and providing a blueprint on what you can do to your yard to be more water conservation minded. You can also go to Metropolitan Water District and get a rebate for every foot of turf that you removed, and it's up to $3 per square foot. So we're working in tandem with Metropolitan Water District on this, but that's just sort of some of the highlights that we've been able to accomplish last year moving into this year with our resource conservation program. Next slide, please. As I talked about aging infrastructure, I think everybody probably remembers, what was it, about 6-7 months ago, I guess, or no, wow, it was almost a year ago. Where am I thinking? That pretty large break that was in Westlake Village there on Lindero and Agoura Road, and it kind of flooded out the streets. A lot of our staff said they've never seen a water main break that big before. And this is the perfect example of why we need to constantly assess and manage our infrastructure. So one of the things that we're doing and have been doing and will continue to do is actually do an assessment of our infrastructure. And what this will look like is prioritizing pipe replacements based on age, the type of material, because at different times there's different materials that were used as an industry standard, and the leak history. And those are going to be some of the criteria that we'll use to create a blueprint for us to continue to move forward and be proactive in replacing infrastructure before it breaks. Again, save water and also long-term water reliability. Now, this is going to cost some money, and we do understand that. But as I've always said, and this will be a broken record, we're constantly looking for ways to minimize the burden and impact to our customers in the form of grants at the state and federal level, other revenue sources, and that is always going to be a guiding principle for the district, is to look for other ways to get money to minimize burdens on our residents. Next slide, please. One of the other things, and I know President Lewitt had briefly talked about this, we're looking at a study, and we are going to be studying how and what is the most sensible ways that we can diversify our water portfolio. We never want to be in the same situation we were a few years ago in dire straits because of the drought. Again, we can't really predict erratic weather patterns now because climate change is so challenging to be able to do that. So some of the things that we're looking at is ocean desalination. It's not your traditional desalination, which is very harsh on the aquatic environment. This is something that's very different. It's a deep water ocean desalination. Basically, we're taking these pods, or we would be taking these pods, tethering to the ocean floor 1,400 feet under the surface. It's in a place called the aphotic zone, which means there's no light that gets down there, a very small amount of light. Why is that important, you ask? It's because biology doesn't really exist down there. There is some, but it's not nearly as active as it is where the sunlight is. That has a minimal environmental impact. This ultimately could provide up to 15 to 20% of our local water needs if this happens. We're piloting this project in our reservoir in Westlake Village, and it looks like that pilot will actually physically start in the next few months, I would say no later than October. And we're really excited about this. This technology has never been used anywhere in the world before. And if it works, this is something that could have global implications, especially across the ponds, where there might be countries that don't have access to fresh water, and this could be a viable opportunity for them. And we, as a district, are piloting this. It's very, very cool, and we're very excited about it. We're also looking at where we can store water. Like I said, we have a 40% allocate, or we're getting 40%. If we got more and we couldn't handle it, what do we do with it? Well, if we found ways to store it, we're going to do that. So that's another thing we're looking at. And this could be different places throughout the state that can be connected through a different piping and infrastructure system. There's also exchange agreements that we're looking at as well. One of the things I didn't put up here is the opportunity to have intertie connections between local water agencies. And we have been doing one with our neighbors Callegas up Lindero Canyon Road. Our side was finished a couple of years ago, and they are currently finishing that on their side of the boundary into Ventura County as well. Why is this good? Is because if they need water, we can provide it to them through that intertie connection and vice versa. We're also looking at other possibilities, like with the city of Malibu going into District 19 as an option going through Malibu Canyon. Again, kind of the same thing. So these are some of the things that we're looking at, and this study is going to really give us a blueprint and a guide as to how we make our decisions and choices moving forward to ensure long-term water reliability for the region. Next slide, please. I know that my colleague Oliver came a couple of weeks ago, really won't go into this too much, but this is sort of like our crown jewel of local water supply right now. We're really excited about it. We're about a 20% design, which is obviously slowly moving, but this is a very complex situation. We couldn't appreciate the idea and the reality that we're going to be doing it here in this wonderful city, in this community. We're taking every step and every precaution to make sure that what's done here is minimizing any impact to, of course, the environment, to the view of Ladyface Mountain, and of course, making sure that it looks really, really nice for everybody when they drive by. Again, won't go into this too much, but I know Oliver gave you a very in-depth assessment of what's going on. Next slide, please. Some of the things that we're doing in customer service department, there's a state mandate that when we just finished this up very recently, is we're ensuring that all of our piping, both ours from the district as well as on the side of our residents, are devoid of lead and copper, meaning that they meet or exceed the limitations that are allowable to have any in the drinking water supply. Typically here on the West Coast, we're not going to really have any because most of our pipes are a lot newer than they do in the Midwest and on the East Coast. That's really truly where there's a lot of issues when it comes to lead pipes or lead in the drinking water. We've also replaced 21,000 meters with smart meters. The reason why this is important is because it has near real-time water usage data, and it also provides the homeowner an opportunity to see if there is an unexpected spike in water usage. More than likely there's a leak, and that way it conserves water. And so now we're also retrofitting some of the large old meters with new meters, but they're just different sizes. So we're really excited about this. The other thing I will say about our customer service department is that we're intellectually kind of changing how we look at what customer service is, specifically how we interact with our customers. Traditionally, customer service is people call in, we answer their question, or they call in to solve, we have a problem, and customer service solves it. We're trying to rethink what that experience is. Yes, will they continue to do those things? Of course they will. But our customer service representatives, both that are in and outside the district, meaning they go into the field, they also have the opportunity to be educators. What a great way to educate our community by having that one-on-one interaction at your home, talking about all the things that we're sharing about here, and also things that you can do to conserve water and to become better stewards of the environment. So we're looking at kind of changing how we look and do things to meet the moment and meet the needs and the expectations of our community. Next slide, please. One of the things that is a huge, huge part of what we do is our legislative advocacy, led by your colleague, Jeremy Wolf, our legislative manager. And so what we do is we go out and we meet with our state, our local, and our federal elected officials. And what we talked about them is everything that's going on in the district. Our needs, yes, sometimes we have an ask, sometimes it's just educating, sometimes it's really trying to bring them here to see this beautiful area, all the things that we have going on, how this district is leaders in the state and maybe even on a bigger scale and a bigger stage. We're really excited about this. This is also a great way to get additional funding to minimize burdens to our customers and to the communities that we serve water to. I can't really say how important that is as we move forward, and they seem to be very excited about this ocean desalination project that we're doing, our pure water project, and just some of our leadership initiatives that we're doing. Next slide, please. Just a few pictures just to kind of like highlight the things that we're doing. You know, we have, like I said, local and state and federal representatives, and we always make sure that we you know, honor the moment by taking pictures and push those up on our social media accounts as well. Next slide, please. And I would be remiss if we didn't briefly discuss water rates. I know there's been a couple of articles in the Acorn, or at least one, maybe a month, 2 months ago. Metropolitan has increased their water rates, and what that means is to all member agencies, of which Las Virgenes is one, and the 25 others, is that there's a pass-through that's going to come to all of our customers. And that's just unfortunately how it works. And the reason why they've had to raise rates is because of infrastructure needs, inflation, and just the cost of delivering water. So for a lot of people, they say, why you're raising my rates? It's not the water that costs more, it's delivering the water to people that is increasing in cost, and all the materials, all the chemicals that are needed to use to process and to treat the water to make sure it's the most clean and healthy before it gets to you. So those are just some of the reasons why. So some of the other things that we're going to do as we move forward into probably later this summer to early next year is commence our own rate study. And these are going to be the exact same reasons as why Metropolitan has had to raise rates. We're going to do the same thing. And looking at doing the same thing by assessing what we need and what is going to be in the best interests of all of our residents in terms of consistently delivering that clean, healthy, and reliable water, and obviously do it in the most cost-effective manner that we can. So these are the reasons why we're doing this. And with that, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I'm obviously happy to answer any questions that you have. And again, I just appreciate the fact that you're allowing us to come and speak to you. We're doing this to all of our communities as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McNutt. Does anybody have any questions? I have a couple for you. They'll be quick.
Sure.
Is there a community workshop, or are you accepting community input on the design of the Clean Water Project building?
Oh, on the building? You know, that's we have to some extent, but nothing super formal. So I think that we might be considering. Yes, please. Yeah.
So actually, our general manager, Dave's going to meet with Nathan, I think, next couple weeks for lunch to go over, because we want your input, obviously. We don't really have a formal committee. I know Denise has told me twice in one night, she told me that out of her own goodness of her heart and her budget, she'll let us meet with your architects, which we really want to meet with and hear what they have to say and get pointers. It's interesting, the designs that we've seen are beautiful. I mean, they're amazing designs, and we want to make it so when you're going down the road, you don't really see a big piece of it because it's kind of up on a hill. But we have a side on the west that we think we can use for the community. I don't know if you guys like bird watching, but there's going to be a bird watching area. There's going to be hopefully some educational boards like we have at our garden at our headquarters now. And then I hope to have, I hope we will have a bike station, because I think the biggest sport that I've noticed here in 30 years living here is road bikes, all the bicycles on the streets. So that Agoura Road gets a lot of bikes, so it gets hot here in the summer, so I'm envisioning the bikers stop, there's shade there, and there's water, because every biker has a water bottle, or should, and they can fill up their water bottle for free and learn about it. And so those things, and we want the community, any other ideas you have, we want that. I'm not sure there's any formal, it's a great way to answer your question without answering your question. I'm not sure there's any formal group, but we want as much input from you guys as we can, and with Denise and her team too.
So if members of the public want to come see the designs that you have, where would they go and when should they do that?
Mr. McNutt?
I don't think we have any specific thing like that at this point in time.
Okay.
I think that there would be a lot of different opinions about what something will look like, and I think the most important would be to get input from the community and from Denise's team, and really kind of go from there.
Great, thank you for that.
Yeah.
My other question was, The increase for the delivery of water, is that a fixed cost, or is that how much, a cost based on how much water you use?
Yeah, it's going to be probably a fixed cost, but that's also what the study is going to say. The cost of water is really, it's like pennies on the dollar, right? And so really what we're trying to do is our budget-based billing system. And the reason why we have it set up, and we're one of like less than 10 in the state that do this, is the fixed cost can provide us certainty for revenue to continue for our operations. But the budget-based billing system incentivizes our customers to use less water so their water bills are lower. And we have different tiers like efficient, inefficient, and excessive. And if you, obviously in excessive, yes, your water is going to cost more, the commodity itself, and additional potential penalties. But if you stay in your efficient tier and within your budget, it's going to minimize what your water bill is going to be. But it would be most likely going to be revolving around the fixed costs.
Thank you. And before we close, did you want to answer something?
Add one piece to that. You know, it's funny because one of the reasons Metropolitan is, and we buy all of our water from Metropolitan. So if they raise their rates, we have to raise our rates, right? It's not a good predicament. That's why we're doing all these other things with Pure Water and Ocean. But Metropolitan had people conserved all over, so the water sales went down. Then they had 2 historic rains last, so the water sales went down, which is great, right? But all the infrastructure is still the same, labor and all the pipes, so they have to raise their rates, which means we have to raise our rates. So it's a tough predicament to be in, you know. But people don't understand. I'm using less water and my rates are going up. That's
Right,
a tough
I hear
one to
that a
tell
lot.
them. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then lastly, before we close out, is there something on Saturday that we should all know about?
Yes, thank you for bringing it up. Yes, we're having one of our pure water tasting series called Pure Pizza. And so the idea, of course, behind this is to get people accustomed to just regular things that they enjoy every day using pure water, because literally it's just water. So we're bringing out 2 doughs from here in Agoura. They're going to be providing pizza for 3 hours to the throngs of people coming. We have Tifa, who's going to come also here in Agoura, that's going to provide sorbet made with our pure water. We're also going to have big pretzels that are going to also be made with pure water. And we're also going to have shaved ice made with a blend of pure water and just regular water as well. There's going to be games for kids. It's a family event. We are officially sold out in terms of like how many people. I can't believe it, but we topped out about 300 at this point in time. And we know that there's going to be other people that's going to roll up, and that's totally fine too. But if you all would like to come, I encourage you to. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're excited. We're excited. We hope to see you there.
Great. And that's from 10 to 2?
11 to 2, 3 hours.
11 to 2. And is that at the Water District building?
It's at the headquarters on Las Virgenes Road. That's
Great.
right.
Thank
Yes.
you very much.
Mayor,
Thank you.
do you mind, right here, Jeremy? Councilman Wolf. Just two quick, a few very quick things. I want to thank our board president and board treasurer, Korodesky, for coming out. We're lucky in Agoura. We have 2 board members representing Agoura Hills. And I do want to highlight with President Lewitt being on the Met board, Metropolitan is the most advanced water delivery system in the history of humanity. 19 million people, the complexity is astounding. And so to have someone from Agoura Hills serving on that board is really fantastic and exciting. And then regarding the Pure Water project, City of Agoura Hills has a lot of very exciting projects going on. On the east end of our city, we have the Wildlife Corridor. And on the and then on the west end, we have the Pure Water plant coming in. So these are 2 very exciting civil engineering projects that really put Agoura Hills on the map in a good way. So I'm really proud of this work, and thank you guys for coming here tonight.
Great. Thank you. And thank you, gentlemen. We really appreciate it. We like hearing about
Thank you.
the
Thanks for
project.
having us. Appreciate it.
Take care. So now we are going to return to presentations. Speaking of clean, pure water, I believe that, I know so, I was there, Tavern Tomoko made beer with the pure water from the Pure Water Project a couple of years ago. So we are going to talk to Business of the Month, Tavern Tomoko and Ladyface Brewery, and I'm going to come over here. Okay, so I'm very honored to be giving the June Business of the Month Award to Tavern Tomoko and Ladyface Brewery. Tavern Tomoko is a local brewery, bar, and grill that strives to create a pleasant and comfortable atmosphere where patrons can enjoy all of the inspired American pub food, Japanese barbecue, at craft beers and cocktails. Ladyface Brewery was first established in 2009 by local residents of Agoura Hills, Serena and Jean-Luc Nouzy, and became known for its award-winning Belgian, French, and American-style ales. Ladyface was one of Los County's first revival craft breweries and the first microbrewery in the Conejo Valley. Pete Lee purchased Ladyface Brewery in 2020. It was a tough time to be starting his restaurant and beer occupation, but he worked hard and forged ahead. Tavern Tomoko immediately became involved with Agoura Hills community events, including the State of the City, the 40th anniversary celebration, Holidays on the Hill, and most importantly, the Ladyface beer has had a very strong presence at Reyes Adobe Days. Pete is a member of the Reyes Adobe Days Executive Committee. Tavern Tomoko has been rated as having the most beautiful outside patio in LA County, and I personally have had many meetings and good times in this venue. In fact, every mayor has carried on the tradition of the mayor's table, and I'll be holding the mayor's table at Tavern Tomoko tomorrow from 3:30 to 5:30, so come by, share your thoughts about Agoura Hills, and delight in some of the Tavern Tomoko snacks. It's an honor to present Tavern Tomoko with this certificate for Business of the Month for June of 2024. Pete is in San Diego at his son's soccer tournament, so his wife Darlene will be accepting the certificate. Pete said Darlene is the real boss lady and the true named partner for Tavern Tomoko, since her middle name is Tomoko. Behind every good man is a strong woman. Also with Darlene is the longtime Ladyface brewmaster, Dave Griffiths. I first met Dave before Ladyface was even founded at his father-in-law's garage after a planning commission meeting so that we could taste his newest beer. Thank you for your service to our community. It's meant a lot to us. And Darlene and Dave, would you come up and let's have a picture, and I'll give you this certificate, and perhaps Darlene, you'd like to say a few words, or Dave, or both. Thank you. So this is for you. Dave?
Hello. Yeah, thank you. It was kind of weird being in here. I sat in here in 2008 going over the planning commission stuff, and yeah, some of those early on meetings really kind of hitting me just sitting here in this room. I grew up. Yeah. No, I mean it was part of the process. I'm from Agoura. I went to Willow and Lindero and Agoura High School, so to bring craft beer into the hometown was high on the priority, and we've had a really good run. We've really enjoyed being a local spot for our, the people that live here to come in, enjoy it, have a beer, meet new friends. I can't tell you how many people I've had like meet their wives there, or I see regulars, and 5 years later they've got kids and they're bringing their kids in. So it really has been it's been a really positive experience for us. So it's been wonderful.
Thank you so much. Darlene, would you like to say a few words? You're the boss lady.
Ready to say a few words, but just thank you so much. And, this was my husband's dream always to be able to have a brewery in this community and to be a community spot and to, more than a restaurant and a brewery, but to be a hub of the community. And so, yes, it's really an honor. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And I just want to say, it seems like Pete never says no. Every time we have an event and we need sliders or whatever we need, he always comes through. So thank you both. It's great to see you both. And take care. And thank you. Okay, so let's see. We are now going back to intergovernmental reports. Las Virgenes Municipal Council of Governments update. I'll defer to the Mayor Pro Tem, Sylvester, for that update.
Thank you. We're going to be sending out an RFP for internet service providers that will join in with the new fiber network that we're putting in. So hopefully that will help cover some of the costs for that. The COG sent out a letter of opposition to, let's see, what did we send out a letter about? To AB 2557. And so that's gone, and that was something we also agreed on as a city. We approved the annual contract extensions for the Homeless Outreach Coordinator, Gabriel Graham, and Vivian Rascalvo for Metro Board. And those salaries are paid for by LA County and Metro, not by COG, so it has no financial bearing on our budget, which is good. We learned that the AT&T application, although it has been denied by the CUP, they're trying to do a workaround on that, and so we're taking a stand in opposition to that too. And let's see, the city of Malibu was thrilled because they managed to get through the legislation to get the 5-speed camera systems on PCH, which is to help with the speeding to cut down on all the horrific accidents that have been going on. And interestingly, the city of Malibu has added Juneteenth as a holiday for their city staff. So it's something for us to consider in the future. And Westlake Village was very happy because Julia Brownlee also gave them a $600,000 grant for a microgrid. So they followed up on what we were able to achieve. And that's it.
Great, thank you for that report. We appreciate it. And I will now give an update on the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy Advisory Committee. There were several things on the agenda. Most of them don't apply to Agoura Hills, but there were two that were quite a robust discussion about. The gold-spotted oak borer, and that's a beetle. And it seems to be invading oak trees or possibly invading oak trees, and they're expecting it to come into the Santa Monica Mountains. We've went through a lot. It's fascinating, really, but even burning and cutting down the trees is not going to necessarily get rid of the beetle, so we have to be careful how it's handled. The most important way that this beetle is is migrating around is that people buy firewood from one spot, and then they bring it into another spot, and that's how the movement of the beetle gets through. So they have a campaign going now called Buy It Where You Burn It, and hopefully everybody will think about that when they're camping this summer. Buy your wood where you're going to buy it, where you're going to burn it. There's something called don'tmovefirewood.com. And, you know, the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy and everybody's working on a study. This is going to be a tough beetle to get, but we don't want people going randomly cutting down oak trees so that, you know, to avoid the beetle. Wait until, first of all, it's very specific if you have to remove an oak tree of how you need to do it and how you need to treat the wood afterwards. So there'll be more to come out about this, so just hang in there, everybody. But what they can tell you right now is, don't buy firewood in one place, especially in another state. They anticipate this came in from Arizona, and don't burn it in California. In fact, somebody told me they just drove in from Arizona, and they were actually stopped at the border to see if there was, the border of California, to see if they had any firewood. So it's getting pretty serious. The other thing that we talked about, it was the climate bond. As many of you may know, Senator Ben Allen, he's our senator, introduced Senate Bill 867. It was a general obligation bond. He did this in 2023 to address California's need to protect natural resources and communities from climate change. When it passed the Senate, it was for $15.5 million. It's a bond statewide. Mine said million. Really? Billion, okay. Billion bond statewide measure. The Senate approved it in June 2023, but now it's, you know, it's in limbo. The deadline to get it on the ballot just got extended from June 27th to July 6th. It requires a 2/3 vote. So the legislature has until June 3rd to place the bond on the November ballot, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I read today. It got extended. If you're concerned about this and you want this bond to be on the ballot, be sure to be in touch with Senator Allen and Assemblywoman Irwin. They need to hear from you. The bond amount has decreased substantially. Now they're talking between 8 and 10 billion, and it's probably going to go down from there. So if this is a concern and you think that climate change is a key issue, Cal Cities, League of Cities, we took a very strong position that climate is a number one priority, and so the residents need to speak out. So get in touch with Jackie Irwin, Assemblywoman Irwin, and Senator Ben Allen, and let them know how you feel about that. So those were the two issues that we dealt with. Are there any reports from staff? Nothing? Are there any reports from City Council? Councilmember Klein-Lopez.
Yeah, actually, I should have put it on the agenda, but I can give a quick update on Clean Power Alliance. We had a board retreat last Friday. It's the first one we've had in 5 years. We had one in 2019, and then, of course, with COVID and everything that followed, it was hard for us. We're 35 cities right now, and 2 counties, so it's very hard to get together, but we did have a board retreat, and I just thought, if you'll humor me for a second, as you know, I'm the board president, or chair of the board. I shared just a couple bullet points of what's changed in the 5 years since we had our last board retreat. We've added about 40,000 new customers in 4 new cities, and we have 3 more cities coming online soon. We've signed 44 long-term contracts for renewable energy and storage, and they range from small rooftop solar serving low-income customers to, as we've talked about here, the largest renewable energy project ever built in the United States, and that's the Sunzia Wind project in New Mexico. At the time of the retreat, Clean Power Alliance only had 1 renewable energy resource online, actually providing energy. Now we have 15 projects online, and we are the largest provider of green energy in the country. We've paid off our loans from LA County. We're debt-free, and we now have an investment-grade credit rating. We've launched a suite of customer and community programs, increasing the budget for local investment from $0 to $13 million, and the city of Agoura Hills has benefited from that. And finally, in 2019, we had a staff of 20 people, and they were cramped into this rented WeWork space. And now we have almost 80 full-time staff, permanent offices, and Clean Power Alliance was formally certified as a great place to work from one of the independent agencies that does that. So just thought I would share that Clean Power Alliance is really moving in a fantastic direction, and we continue to grow, and thought those would be fun stats to share.
That's great news. I never had any doubt, and so it's good to hear that you guys are leading the way throughout the country, if not the world. So that's great. Okay, now we'll move on to public comments. This section is reserved for persons wishing to speak on items not listed on the agenda that are under the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. If you have something to distribute to the City Council, please do not approach the dais. Hand your item to the City Clerk, and she will distribute to us on your behalf. Public testimony is limited to 3 minutes per speaker, and a speaker's time may not be transferred to another speaker. Persons addressing the City Council shall not engage in disorderly conduct that disrupts or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of the meeting. I will now defer to the City Clerk.
Thank you. No written public comments have been received, and no speaker cards have been submitted.
Thank you very much. Are there any, so we now will move on to the consent calendar. This section is reserved for persons wishing to speak on items on the consent calendar. I'll now defer to the City Clerk.
No written public comments have been received, and no speaker cards have been submitted.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the City Council on the consent calendar? I'll now call for a motion and a second to adopt the consent calendar.
Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester moves to adopt the consent calendar.
City Councilman Chris Anstead seconds.
Thank you, and I'll defer to the City Clerk for a roll call vote.
Councilmember Anstead?
Aye.
Councilmember Klein-Lopez?
Aye.
Councilmember Wolf?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester?
Aye.
Mayor Buckley Weber?
Aye.
Mayor Buckley Weber, you have approval 5-0.
Thank you. We're now going to move on to public hearings. Our next item is to conduct a public hearing to consider the adoption of resolutions establishing fiscal year 2024-2025, appropriations limitations, and adopting the annual budget for fiscal year 2024-2025, including fiscal year 2024-2025 appropriations, and authorizing amendments to the fiscal year 2023-2024 annual budget. I will now open the public hearing and defer to Director of Finance Diego Ibanez for the staff presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. After months of discussion and planning and meetings with department heads, city manager guidance, and input from the Finance Subcommittee, Finance staff is presenting the City Council this evening with a balanced city budget for the mid-cycle 2023-2024 and 2020-2024-2025 fiscal years. After the last budget workshop and latest review of the current budget, staff was able to establish a budget that maintains all levels of services for the City of Agoura's residents and also provides funding for planned capital improvement projects, prior new City Council goals, and continued daily operations of all departments at City Hall. The general fund is expected to receive $18.8 million in revenues and anticipates $18.7 million in expenditures. The overall fiscal year 2024 budget for the City of Agoura Hills is $35 million. Staff respectfully recommends the City Council conduct a public hearing to consider the adoption of Resolution Number 24-2076, establishing fiscal year 2024-2025 appropriation limitations of $22,842,166, and Resolution Number 24-2077, adopting the annual budget for fiscal year 2024-2025, including fiscal year 2023-24 appropriations and authorizing amendments to the fiscal year 2023-2024 annual budget. This concludes staff's presentation. Is available for questions.
Thank you very much. And before we move on to public comment, does any council member have any questions of staff? And just for the record, so the public knows, we had quite a lengthy presentation at our last meeting. We've been working on the budget since March. So if it seems like we have no questions, it's because the staff has done a great job in the last 3 months of answering all of our questions. So thank you for that. The public hearing is open, so I'll now defer to the city clerk for public comments.
Thank you. We've not received any written public comments, nor do we have any speaker cards.
Thank you. Before closing the public hearing, do any council members have any questions of staff? Not seeing any, I'll now close the public hearing. We will now move on to deliberations. Why don't we start with you, Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester?
Thank you. Yes, I would just like to thank the staff for guiding us for the last couple of months through this massive project. For those at home, it's, over 100 pages worth of reports that we've been living with for the last few months. So you've given us time to get a good handle on everything. I appreciate that we have had a decrease in income, and you have accommodated that so that we still have a balanced budget and we are not going into our reserve funds. So well done on that. And for the public to know that 28% of the budget does go on safety and security. We haven't cut anything in that area, which is excellent. We've been able to maintain our community grants. Some of them not as large as we would have hoped, but we have tried to spread it out across the community to cover all the different areas that applied. And you are maintaining a healthy reserve, not only for emergencies, but also to cover the city projects that we need to fund until we get reimbursed by grants. So I can make all the findings, and I think they've done a great job.
Thank you for that. Councilmember Anstead.
Thank you. Actually, my comments are pretty similar to Mayor Pro Tem's comments. I want to commend the staff for an excellent job on the budget process. We've been over this quite a few times in the last couple months, and I'm confident that we've got a balanced budget and we're spending the money where money needs to be spent on our city services. I do want to call out, just like Mayor Pro Tem did, concerning the public safety, the 28%. I think that's great, and we've allocated new monies for new cameras going forward for public safety, and we've always taken that as a high priority in the city working with the Malibu Sheriff's Department. So I think that's great. And I also think I would love to actually have more money for community projects. But we have a limited budget, and we try to stay within that budget. And I think we've done a great job trying to allocate money to a lot of great causes in our community. And I think that that's great. And we've also added some additional monies here at the end to make sure all of the community services get what we feel they should be getting. So I'm very comfortable with that as well. And I think we're doing a great job. I think we've always been very conservative in our estimates on kind of the revenue flow in the city, and I think that's served us well. And so I think continue to do that going forward, and I think we should be great. So I can make all the findings, ready to move forward to approve this budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Wolf.
Great. I too am able to make all the findings. As is often said, a budget highlights our priorities and our values, and I think that this budget encompasses all of those things. Due to Agoura Hills' own making throughout the years, we don't have some of the income that some of the other cities do, and that's by design, and that's what makes Agoura Hills so special. And so our ability to balance all that while remaining fiscally responsible and with healthy reserves is impressive, and I'm proud of that work. I'm really proud that we have funding for open space, for environmental issues, public safety, especially flock cameras, like Councilmember Anstead mentioned. All the city services, stormwater capital projects, traffic safety, our recreation department. There's so much that goes into it. There's unlimited wants and needs, but allocating that to the right sources and properly is a Herculean task. So I commend the finance department. You guys did a fantastic job, and I'm proud of this budget, and I'm ready to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Klein Lopez.
Thank you. I would like to first thank all of staff for creating such a thorough process of creating this budget. As Councilmember Wolf said, a budget is really a reflection of our priorities and the things that our residents find most important. And so to be able to include their voices, which we do, and really kind of drill down into the nitty-gritty is really important. So I just want to thank you for this process, because it's 3, 4, even longer months long. I know I have notes, and I know my other council members have notes of goals that I want to bring to council and to staff. And so for this process to allow for us to share those goals and talk about it and figure out what is realistic and what is pie in the sky and maybe something in between is really important for us, because that's why we ran for office. We ran for office because we hear from our neighbors, we hear from our residents, we want to get things done. And so to have such a thorough process is really important for us as council members to be able to understand how it works and really try to represent our constituency. So I want to thank you for that, particularly, as always, Michelle, for trying to get a gazillion meetings on everybody's calendar, because as you know, once we throw all those goals out, we then have to meet in subcommittee to kind of hash out the details. So thank you to all of the staff who works on this. I think also, as my fellow council member said, it really is a reflection of our residents' priorities, public safety, public works, and I also want to make sure community services and parks and all of the things that our residents love about Agoura Hills. And I do want to once again thank our staff for working so hard on trying to get grants to really extend our limited budget to be able to provide the residents with all of the services that they want and expect. And then finally, I think, as council members, obviously one of the main reasons that we've been elected is to protect taxpayer dollars, to protect public monies. And so I take this job of understanding the budget and hashing it out very seriously. We need to understand the nitty-gritty of this so that we can then explain it to our residents and make them feel comfortable that we are spending their money wisely. So I think we've done that. I think we have a great budget. I love that we, even in the most challenging times, have a balanced budget. And I think that says a lot about our city and what our residents expect from us. So with that, I'm also ready to proceed.
Thank you very much. And every mayor wants there to be a balanced budget. No mayor wants to sit up here and find out there's not a balanced budget, because there's always been one in the city of Agoura Hills. Phew. Made it through another mayorship. But, you know, all joking aside, I don't have a lot to add, but I do want to thank the directors of every department, because I know that you start to work on this in January. It's not simple. It's not just a cut and paste. First, you have to hear what all of our goals are, and you have to find the money for each and everything, or at least start the summary of what it's going to take to get something done. So we appreciate that. And for our residents who come in and help us, you know, understand, you've elected people who you believe have the same vision for the quality of life in Agoura Hills, and that's what the 5 of us have done. We've budgeted to make the quality of life in Agoura Hills just outstanding, and we hope and believe that you agree with us. And if you don't, be sure to come in next March and let us know what you want, what you think the goals should be. And we do take it very seriously about a balanced budget, because the Director of Finance, Mr. Ibanez, actually said at the last meeting, well, if you're going to cut, if you want more money for this, you're going to have to cut something else out. And it was $300, and we did it, and I appreciate that, because that's what families do. If they're going to go do something or spend something or buy something for their home, they may have to cut something else for a month or 2 or 6 months. So the city, you know, taking it seriously like that, I really appreciate it. So thank you for all your hard work. You've made it through your first complete budget cycle, which is really commendable. And with that, I think we, unless anybody else has any other comments, I think we're ready to move on. So I will, let's see, I need a motion and a second to adopt resolution numbers 24-276 and 24-277.
So moved. Deborah Klein Lopez.
Councilman Chris Anstead, second.
Thank you, and I'll call on the city clerk to take a roll call vote.
Councilmember Anstead?
Aye.
Councilmember Klein Lopez?
Aye.
Councilmember Wolf?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester?
Aye.
Mayor Buckley Weber?
Aye.
Mayor Buckley Weber, you have approval 5-0.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Our next item is to conduct a public hearing to consider the adoption of a resolution amending the inclusionary housing in lieu fee schedule. I'll now open the public hearing and defer to Community Development Director Denise Thomas for the staff presentation.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. I'm Denise Thomas, Community Development Director here in the City of Agoura Hills. The item before you is a request to update the inclusionary housing ordinance in lieu fee resolution to reflect changes in construction costs. I will begin by giving you some background. In 2000, the City Council adopted the Inclusionary Housing Ordinance, or the IHO. The IHO provides a framework for affordable housing requirements when developing residential projects. The IHO applies to all residential developments with 10 or more dwelling units. Tonight's item asks you to consider amending the per unit fees associated with affordable housing to reflect the current costs of construction. The in lieu fee schedule was adopted by resolution and amended twice since 2000 as part of the Inclusionary Housing Ordinance. The resolution adopted the in lieu fee as an alternative to providing affordable housing units on site. Residential developments with 10 units or more are required to provide 15% of the units in a development at the very low, and moderate income levels. The developer may construct the units themselves as part of the market rate development, or they may request the option to pay a fee pursuant to the in lieu fee schedule instead of constructing the units on site. The Inclusionary Housing Ordinance, which is adopted in the Agoura Hills Municipal Code, allows multiple methods to satisfy the the IHO affordability requirement instead of constructing the units on site. The IHO allows developers to pay the in lieu fee for all affordable units, to construct the units, or to do one of the options that are present on the screen. Next, we have our consultant, Cato Byrne. She's a senior associate with Economic and Planning Systems. She will present to you her report and give you a summary, and the summary of her report is the basis upon which staff made its recommendation to the Finance Subcommittee. Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. Thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Cato Byrne from Economic and Planning Systems, an urban economics firm based out of Sacramento. We also have offices in Los Angeles, Oakland, and Denver. I'm here to present the findings of the study that we completed to provide updates to your existing inclusionary housing in lieu fee. Next slide, please. A quick rundown of what I'll be covering includes an introduction to the in lieu fee, a brief legal background, the methodology and assumptions used in our analyses, and the findings and our recommendations. Next slide, please. EPS was retained by the city to update the existing in lieu fees that were adopted back in September 2018 in order to reflect changes in the real estate market, including current rents, home prices, and construction costs. The inclusion housing ordinance, as Denise mentioned, requires all residential developments of 10 or more units to provide 15% affordable units at varying rates of affordability set by the State Department of Housing and Community Development, or HCD. The ordinance also includes additional methods of compliance as required by State Assembly Bill 1505, including allowing the developer to pay a fee in lieu of building the required inclusionary units, or allowing them to build a portion of the required units and paying an in lieu fee for the remainder. Next slide, please. AB 1505, which went into effect January 2018, allows cities to adopt inclusionary housing requirements for rental developments. As mentioned, the statute also must allow alternative means of compliance that are considered real alternatives, meaning they are financially comparable to building the required inclusionary units. This includes alternatives such as the in lieu fee, land dedication, and off-site construction. Next slide, please. Inclusionary housing requirements are one of the many tools that a city can incorporate to help provide affordable housing for a variety of income levels. This slide right here shows average local housing prices compared to the household income required to afford these units, as well as the income limits provided by HCD for inclusionary housing. As shown, the local housing prices are above typical levels of affordability. Per the HCD, the median income limit for a 3-person household in LA County is $88,400, whereas the income required to purchase a current townhome or condo or rent an apartment unit in Agoura Hills ranges from $135,000 to $208,000. Next slide, please. For our analysis, we implemented a similar methodology used in establishing the prior 2018 fees, which is calculating the affordability gap. Using the affordability gap to establish maximum supportable fees that can be charged to developers is a well-accepted methodology. The affordability gap is the difference between the value of the affordable unit based on the rents or sales prices from the income limits minus the cost to build the unit, which includes land, construction cost, soft costs, etc. This is the amount that needs subsidizing if the developer opts to not build the unit, reflecting the maximum supportable in lieu fee that can be charged to developers. Next slide, please. We calculated the maximum in lieu fee for 3 prototypes, 2 for sale product types, which are townhomes and condos, and 1 multifamily apartment rental building. The density and parking assumptions are based on the city's municipal code. The sizes are based on comparable products in the area, and persons per household is based on state law, health and safety code. Next slide. Using HCD's income limits, we calculated the maximum monthly rent or mortgage payment for each prototype based on housing costs accounting for 30% of household income. For example, a 3-person, very low income household with an annual income of $56,750 as provided by HCD can pay a maximum of $1,136 per month for rent. Next slide. In our financial analysis, the pro forma done, the assumed rents and mortgage revenues inform the estimated values of the units. The estimated costs are based on recent area land sales, building and parking construction costs, indirect or soft costs such as architecture, engineering, marketing, developer profit, et cetera, as well as impact fees. And just to remind you, the affordability gap is the revenues minus the costs. Next slide, please. This slide, which I hope clearly illustrates the affordability gap, the full bar, the orange plus the blue, represents the total cost to build a unit. The blue is the estimated unit value or the revenues at each of the different affordability levels per HCD. And the orange is the affordability gap. This is the cost that needs subsidizing if the developer opts to pay the in lieu fee, or the loss of income to the developer if they build, which may be offset by the revenue from the market rate units. Next slide, please. This slide presents the updated maximum supportable fee by prototype and income limit based on the affordability gap analysis. The proposed fees range from about $165,000 for a townhome sold to a moderate income household, up to $600,200 for a multifamily apartment rented to a very low income household. This slide also compares the proposed fees to the existing 2018 fees. The updated fees are 4% to 126% higher than the current fees, reflecting a loss of potential funds that would go to the city to help provide affordable housing. EPS recommends charging the maximum supportable fee if the city would like to encourage developers to build the units themselves. We also recommend considering requiring an annual adjustment using an index such as ENR's construction cost index to keep up with economic changes in the real estate market. Thank you very much, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Let's move on to, do we have any questions from council?
I think staff just wants to present the different options. To
Oh,
finalize, if
okay.
that's okay.
Got it.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Thank you, Kate. So staff will now briefly go over the 2 potential options for amending the inclusionary housing ordinance in lieu fee resolution. Option 1 is called the maximum supportable fee. This option provides proportional in lieu fees based on unit type at each level of affordability. The levels of affordability are very low income, and moderate income. Option 1 represents the difference between the value and the cost of each affordable unit to construct. Staff recommends this method. Option 2 is called the weighted average fee. This option simplifies in lieu fees for both the city and the developer by providing 1 fee per housing type. Option 2 does not consider each level of affordability. This option is a flat fee per housing type. Staff recommends option 1 because it allows the flexibility granted by the IHO to choose the method of compliance available while allowing the city to recover the cost of construction for the unbuilt units. Option 2, while simpler to understand, works on an average basis. If all of the units are waived, you will realize roughly the same amount in fees. But if the lower income levels of affordability are waived, less will be collected in fees to cover the cost of construction. We have provided a scenario on the screen which illustrates this point. In option 1, if a developer chose to pay the in lieu fee for the very low and moderate income levels, we would collect approximately $5.4 million, whereas in option 2, we would only collect approximately $5.1 million due to the averaging. Given the regional housing needs allocation assessment being 127 very low-income units and 72 low-income units and 55 moderate-income units, it is important for us to look for ways to incentivize construction of the units by the developer rather than paying the in lieu fee to buy their way out. Staff consulted with the Finance Subcommittee about amending the in lieu housing ordinance, the inclusionary housing ordinance in lieu fee resolution schedule. Meetings were held with the Finance Subcommittee on May 28th and June 3rd. The subcommittee stated that they were supportive of option 1, which is the maximum supportable fee, and recommended in lieu fees be indexed annually on January 1st of each year using the Engineering News Record Construction Cost Index schedule. There is no fiscal impact at this time. The city's current budget will not be affected by these projects, and it's not anticipated that we will be collecting in lieu fees before the end of the fiscal year. However, moving forward, there may be an impact to the budget, but that impact is unknown at this time because we have no way of knowing what projects will come in, what fees will be paid, and what projects we'll be reviewing. In summary, there's a significant gap between the current in lieu fee amounts, which were adopted in 2018, and the current cost to develop affordable units. Current in lieu fees incentivize payment of the fee in lieu of constructing the units. Given the aforementioned information we've presented to you, staff recommends the City Council adopt Resolution Number 24-2078, amending the inclusionary housing in lieu fee schedule to reflect option 1, the maximum supportable in lieu fee, and to use the Engineering News Report Construction Cost Index to adjust the in lieu fee schedule annually on January 1st until a subsequent study is completed and a subsequent resolution is adopted. This concludes my presentation. The consultant and I are available for any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Okay, questions. Councilmember Klein-Lopez.
We talked about this in the subcommittee, but can you explain the maximum supportable fees that can be charged? We can't just make them up, right? Like we can't just make them so impossibly high that it 100% incentivizes a build. Can you explain what legal barriers we might face? Do we get audited, but does it have to pass muster with HCD? Can you just kind of explain to us how we get to the maximum and why we can't go past it?
The alternative measures have to be considered real alternatives, meaning that they're financially comparable to actually providing the units. That's why you can't just make up a number. And again, too, HCD would likely review if it was brought to their attention that they are too high, that there isn't a fiscal neutrality.
So we have to defend those numbers. Great. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councilmember Wolf?
Will we be reviewing this, and I know you said this, just for clarification, every year or every 5 years? Is this going to be updated?
Thank you for the question. It's a good one. What we're proposing is that we use the ENR construction index, which is an index that would allow us to keep pace with construction costs. That was the recommendation of the subcommittee. And so essentially on January 1st, when likely our building permit fees might change, these fees would also be updated because they're linked to construction. And we would automatically add whatever the percentage changes to the fee schedule. And that would be the new fee schedule until we did another study, in which case we may come back to you with other fees.
Okay, so that makes sense. So every year it would be incrementally adjusted until a new schedule. Every 5 years, a new schedule. No, I get what you're saying, but I'm having trouble articulating. Every 5 years, we will be restructuring it or looking at it?
We do the fee, we haven't been doing the fee studies every 5 years. We've been doing the fee studies pretty much on demand. If we notice that the cost of materials and labor and construction have grown like they have due to COVID and due to shortages in materials, we'll come to you and we'll say, we believe it's time for us to take a look at it. But it will be, I don't know if the city manager or the finance director has a regular schedule upon which we do the studies, but until the study is completed, we would use the index to incrementally increase the fees to keep pace with inflation.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. And then, thank you for that. And then another question is, if we go forward with this today, and I think this is in the report, and I apologize, if we choose one of the options, when would this be implemented?
Because we're not amending the ordinance, because the ordinance is intact and it's fine, we're only amending the resolution. The resolution goes into effect after you've approved it. We don't have to come back for a second read.
That makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester.
I don't have any questions for staff because we really, in the subcommittee, we walked through this minutely, and I don't want you, my fellow council members, to be overwhelmed by that report because it was really difficult to read. But all you need to know is that, one, we haven't been charging enough for the in-lieu fees. So what we've done is we brought them up to date so that they really reflect the true costs. And two, ideally, we want to get that 15% of low income, very low income, and moderate income housing. And if we don't get it going forward, we will have more money in our fund, in our building fund, to provide those units.
Okay.
If we go into partnership with somebody, because obviously the city are not builders.
Correct.
But we will have funds to work with, say, Many Mansions or some other sort of NGO organization to do that. But just know that we really went through these numbers in minute detail, and we think we understand them, so please trust us on that. But I highly recommend that we do this.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Ansett, questions? Okay, thank you. I have a couple of questions. The maximum supportable fee was one of them, so thank you for answering that. So this may sound really stupid, but is there a chance, and I love the idea of the annually indexing annually on January 1, but is there a chance that the cost could go down and all of a sudden the in lieu fee would go down? I mean, that might not, it doesn't seem realistic in the world that we live in, but if the index went down, would our in lieu fee go down?
I have actually seen construction costs go down a percentage and fees go down. Not necessarily for in lieu fees, for other impact fees.
Okay, all right. But you haven't seen it with in lieu fees?
No.
Okay, great, thank you. And then my understanding under AB 1505 is that we have to give the option of an in lieu fee.
That's correct.
Okay, and then my last question is, and I think that Ms. Thomas already answered it, but just so it's clear, that the in lieu fee cannot be paid by a developer who is coming in with a development under the housing AHO.
I didn't answer that, but that is a good question. No, one of the requirements that was adopted by the council when the AHO was established was that the 20% very low and low would be constructed on site. If they choose not to construct it on site, the alternative or their option is to go a discretionary route, in which case the in lieu fee would kick in.
Great, thank you. That's all my questions. Any further questions? Okay, seeing none. Then let's go to deliberations. Why don't we start with you, Mayor Pro Tem?
As I stated before, we looked at this in great detail, and I'd like to thank the staff for that, for explaining to us exactly.
You know what? I'm going to interrupt you because I skipped a step here, so hang on a second. Before closing the public hearing, do any council members have any further questions of staff? Okay, seeing none, I'll now close the public hearing. And now we'll move on to deliberations, and we'll start with you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, so I can make all the findings, and I am in favor. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Yes, option 1, not option 2, because sometimes they may cherry pick and find a cheaper way to do it. So if we keep, the costs for each level, I think that's very important. So option 1. Thank you.
Really sorry, but I forgot to, I got completely confused on this script. So let me go back a second before I'm going to reopen the public hearing. And I'm going to ask the city clerk if we have any speakers.
We do not have any written public comments or speaker cards.
Thank you very much. Now I will close the public hearing and we'll move on to deliberations. And I think we've heard the deliberations a couple of times from the Mayor Pro Tem. I apologize for that. And let's move on to the other committee member, subcommittee member, Councilmember Klein-Lopez.
Thank you. This is very important. So this is a very, very important item that we are talking about because our current rates are too low. And so what that does is it disincentivizes developers from building the much needed affordable units that we not only want, but that we are required to provide. So the fact that our rates are too low and that we're getting them back up to market levels is huge. It's important. I thank staff for bringing this to us. One of the things I want to say is I particularly like the fact that we're building in these increases so that we don't find ourselves in this situation again, where we're a couple years down the road, especially after COVID, where construction costs have soared. We're using a construction index. We grappled with CPI versus a construction index, and even though it's the construction index is a little bit harder to come by, and you might have to pay a fee for it or this or that, it's much more accurate than CPI, and we wanted to make sure to keep these numbers as accurate as possible. So I'm really happy that this is coming to us, and I'm really happy that we're building in some protections to keep our fees relevant to what's happening in the market. As Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester said, we spent a lot of time on this, and there were many, many charts that we went through that thankfully you all didn't have to spend the time. That's what a subcommittee does. And it really took us a while to wrap our heads around it, because what we wanted to make sure is that we're collecting these fees, but we didn't want the city or our partners like Many Mansions or Habitat or other nonprofits to be financially burdened by unfair or low fees. So we really spent a lot of time trying to make sure that, we are not builders. We collect this fee, but we as a city, we are not builders. And so we have this money. We need to use it for, for lower income building or subsidies. And so we just needed to kind of wrap our heads around the fact that we wanted to make this as equitable and realistic as possible for the agencies that we may partner with to get these things built. But really what we want to do is we want to incentivize builders to do it the first time. So this helps fill that gap. This, I believe, incentivizes a developer to build because they're already building. So all things being equal, financially for them, if we can get them to build it, that's great. We all agreed on option 1 because there are ways to kind of play around, loophole, get out, make it financially easier to get out of building with option 2 with the averaging. So we all agreed on option 1. And the other piece of this that I'm very happy about is that we're adding townhomes into this fee structure, because we did not have townhomes. We didn't have in lieu fees for townhomes, and that's missed opportunity to get affordable units built. So I'm very happy that we are including that. And so with that, we are also happy to answer any questions from a subcommittee level, but I'm ready to proceed with option 1.
Thank you. Councilmember Wolf.
I want to start off by thanking the subcommittee, and I'm really happy that you guys had to review this, and it went to you first, because this is really complex. But I heard a few things that were said by fellow council members that I was thinking about while reviewing this, and the word incentivize. We want to make sure that we are incentivizing the affordable units to be built. And then the other thing that I've heard said twice is that the city is not in the business of developing workforce affordable units, whatever the term is, and that we really don't want to give it an easy way out. We don't have that many locations in the city to be putting this. I mean, we have a finite amount of space, and to be able to buy your way out of it is a really dangerous game where we're totally kicking the can down the road. So I think this this is a really smart way to go forward. I appreciate that we're going to be looking at this yearly and adjusting in real time. In lieu fees are a really big deal with affordable units, especially to meet our RENA numbers. So I appreciate the work that was done on the committee level, on the staff level. I'm comfortable and happy to move forward with option 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Anstead.
Thank you very much. I appreciate everybody's comments already. I totally am in agreement that we're not a builder, and we want to incentivize the developers to actually build these low and moderate income housing units. So with that being said, the two options that are being presented, one is the option 1, which is the maximum supportable. The other one's the weighted average. So to me, for sure, I actually don't even want to consider option 2 because it doesn't incentivize for very low income units to get the maximum amount of money that would cost to subsidize those type of units. So therefore, I think option 1 really is the only option because the city's kind of footing the bill then for the developer if we were to go with option 2. So that's why I feel strongly about option 1, and I'm ready to move forward with that. And I think everything else has already been said. I don't really want to repeat what other people have already said. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I too want to thank the subcommittee and our staff for working on this. I'm thrilled that it's coming, and I'm thrilled that it's in a resolution, and so we'll be able to put this into effect right away. As a council, the 5 of us have embraced affordable housing, and we certified the housing element. I can't remember when that was, a couple of years ago. And 20 what? August of 22. And, that's the position that we took, that we believe that there needs to be some affordable housing in Agoura Hills. And we worked really hard to try and make that work, and that's why we have the AHO, and we're ready to roll. But there was always this little loophole of the in lieu fee, that if somebody didn't want to proceed under the AHO, they could come in the normal, what was the normal way, and they could just pay an in lieu fee. In fact, the property that we bought over on Driver Avenue was with in lieu fees that had come in over a long period of time. So I'm excited about it. I think that the dollar amount is an incentive for developers just to come in and do the low and very low income units, and hopefully they will. And I think that anything we can do to push that along. So I'm for option 1, but I also really like this that you've added in that would be indexed annually on January 1 with the ENR construction. Now that Councilmember Klein-Lopez has explained that compared to the CPI, I'm 100% for that, and anything that we can do to get those affordable units built. I don't know if this is true or not, but I just read today that it looks like a 7th round might be coming out of new RENA numbers, so we'll be ready. So thank you, everybody, for that. So with that said, if nobody has any further comments, I'm calling for a motion and a second to approve the staff recommendation by adopting a resolution number 24-278.
Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester so moves.
Thank you.
Deborah Klein-Lopez, I'll second.
Thank you. And I'll defer to the city clerk for a roll call vote.
Councilmember Anstead?
Aye.
Councilmember Klein Lopez?
Aye.
Councilmember Wolf?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester?
Aye.
Mayor Buckley Weber?
Aye.
Mayor Buckley Weber, you have approval, 5-0.
Thank you. We're now going to move on to council and staff comments. Are there any comments from staff? Nothing? Okay. Are there any comments from the city council?
I would just like to thank Jessica for filling that pothole on Canaan by Canwood East. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Councilmember Anstead?
Sure, I just want to say I hope everybody enjoys the 4th of July and goes out and enjoys it with their family members and celebrates our freedom and our country. And I also want to say I hope a lot of people will come to our concert that we have on July the 7th in the park, and also our, what's the display that we're doing with the
Student art show?
Our drone show.
The summer art show.
Our drone show, yeah, exactly.
Oh, the drone show,
And
okay.
I got a lot of excitement already from residents asking about the drone show. So I hope everybody will go out for that on July the 7th as well. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Klein Lopez?
Well, I just want to say on behalf of I know I can say on behalf of the whole council and our staff, congratulations to Jeremy Wolf, new dad. I've had the pleasure to see baby Gabriel, and he is one of the cutest babies I've ever seen, and I'm not just saying that. So congratulations. We're all so happy for you.
Councilmember Wolf?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so June 7th, we welcomed Gabriel Paulo, after my grandfather, Gorney Wolf, into the world, Agoura Hills' newest resident constituent. And I appreciate everyone's patience and flexibility over these past few weeks, and surprisingly been easier than I thought. So I'm waiting for the next shoe to drop, but it's been pretty good, and I need to get home pretty soon because the longest I've been away yet. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, and congratulations again, Councilmember Wolf. So the only comments I have are that, July 7th is Neil Diamond and at our drone show, and I just want to say that Neil Diamond is a rock and roller. I've seen him live in 1976. This isn't the real Neil Diamond, but I was shocked when I was at the show that, it was real rock and roll. I was expecting pop, and I got rock and roll. So I hope you'll join us for that and for our first drone show in the whole region. Also tomorrow, as I said earlier, at Tavern Tomoka, we have At the Mayor's Table. I hope you'll all come out. I don't know that we're serving beer, but we are serving snacks. So we'll see you there, and you can come talk about any issues, talk about the budget, whatever you want. There's some exciting public works projects coming down the pike, so I hope you'll all come and talk to us about that. And then on July 11th, we have our summer art show, and that'll be up at the event center. We have 3 or 4 artists who are exceptional, and I hope you'll all come for the, what do you call that, the opening? The opening of the art show on July 11th, but you can see the show after that, but come for the opening. Of course, we have snacks, so, come on down and have some fun with us. So with that, I will now go to adjournment. The next regular city council meeting is scheduled for 6 p.m. on Wednesday, July 10th, 2024, in the council chambers of the Civic Center located at 30001 Ladyface Court, Agoura Hills, California. This meeting is now adjourned.